My next guest, Michael Johns, former speechwriter for George H.W. Bush, conservative commentator, one of the co-founders of the Tea Party movement. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Good, JT. How are you?
Mike, this guy, Paul Krugman, I mean, I've been taking aim at this guy for years during the bank crisis. He was such a shill for Obama. It was unbelievable. And I think he was starting to talk about, oh, there's green shoots in the economy and this and that. And the guy was never right. You have a list of all the inaccuracies from this guy. Talk to us about it.
It's voluminous and would consume more time than we have. But, you started with some commentary about how, an unfortunate day in the Dow today. But, let's just start with the prediction after Trump's election that Paul Krugman, by the way, by introduction, a Nobel Prize winning economist, New York Times columnist, has been a professor at some of the most prestigious universities in this country, including MIT and Princeton. I think he's now at SUNY in New York City. Came out when the Dow was 19,827 on Trump's inauguration day. After the election, he'd written this column called "The Economic Fallout." He said in it, if the question is when markets will recover, a first pass answer is never. And he went on to predict basically gloom and doom for the future of the American economy. And of course, markets rallied from there up to 29,551 in the Dow, and the S&P 500 and NASDAQ and other indexes followed on February 12th, 2020, an appreciation of almost 50%, 49%. And even now at slightly over 25,000, it's appreciated 27% under Trump. So, basically, you have to look at Trump's economic management in this country, particularly pre-coronavirus, but even with coronavirus, as being not the cataclysmic future that Krugman so confidently predicted back in 2016.
This guy Krugman's like, to me, he's a bum. I mean, if you're an award-winning journalist, be an objective journalist. Don't hack everything to sound the way you want it to sound, because I don't think you deserve our respect anymore as a journalist.
Absolutely, and I think when you go through, this is a crisis in academia, it's a crisis in media, and of course this guy's a big figure in both professions. I believe he's the second most cited individual in curriculums in colleges. Has a history of absolute inaccuracies and almost no track record of predicting things accurately, and yet he's lauded by the elite and writes for a newspaper that, I don't know about you, but, that I kind of grew up politically holding in high esteem, never being under any illusions about its ideological orientation, but ultimately feeling that basically in media, the New York Times was a pinnacle, in the world, maybe the leading paper in the world.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember the old song. I'm probably a little older than you, but there was a song at the Copa, and it talked about, this beautiful showgirl. And then towards the end, it starts talking about, but that was 30 years ago when there used to be a show, and now it's disco, right? That's what, but not for Lola. I think the New York Times is Lola. If you ask me, that it's busted down. It was the proud gray lady. It was the pinnacle of world news, what was on the New York Times front page. And now, to me, it's like a busted up lounge singer who's, working in some off the strip casino in Vegas or something. It's I hate to say it, but prostituted itself to the left and thrown objectivity and journalism out the window.
Yeah, the list goes on with Krugman, and I, have read this guy since almost the beginning, but, he was one of the leading figures, frankly, in media that was always alleging that our Tea Party movement was really not about what we said it was about. He wrote back in 2019, any notion that the Tea Party failed in its objectives is nonsense. It was all about racial animosity. And of course, you look at the individuals that we look to for leadership in our movement, people like Alan West and Tim Scott, Herman Cain, Larry Elder, Lynn Swan, whose candidacy we supported in Pennsylvania, Ken Blackwell, Mia Love out in Utah. We actually had a great degree of focus, just not ideologically, along the individuals that he wanted, which was for us to essentially embrace Obama. And that was constant article columns and tweets from him attempting to undermine the validity of the largest grassroots political movement in our country's history. And and it just goes on from there. Saying Bernie Sanders was not a socialist.
Oh my God!
When Bernie,
he said the leader of Nicaragua was a fine person. You know what I mean? Like, if that doesn't make you a socialist, what does? Mike, let me ask you this. I'm sorry to take you off the stuff we were supposed to talk about, but if you had, I'm sure we all do great things, but you still have regrets inside of the movement. Well, if we would have done that, that could have done a little better. Do you regret ever associating with Joe Scarborough? Because I know he jumped on the Tea Party bandwagon, and I think he's just one of the most awful people on television also.
Yeah, he's not alone as far as individuals who were beneficiaries of our political momentum and aligned with us and then subsequently betrayed us, usually for their own political aspirations or for financial reward. Ralston, Illinois, I'd put him in the same category. And, so he was a guy who, frankly, we helped elevate in that Florida race. I don't believe he ever would have won without the Tea Party movement. And that, of course, gave launch to his presence on MSNBC, where he's an equally, along with Paul Krugman, equally inaccurate, and just venom-filled.
Yeah. And to me, it seems like the ultimate portrayal of what they call, the old word henpecked, right? He sits there, he's basically Mika's lapdog, and he's got to go with the party line or he's in big trouble. And anytime he steps out, you see Mika like glaring him down, and he just backs down. It's like, when you said the perfect word, betrayal, because Roger Stone told me that during the 2015-16 part of the campaign, Joe Scarborough was at Mar-a-Lago every single week. Every weekend he was at Mar-a-Lago. He was drinking drinks and eating food and hanging out with Donald, and they were having him on the show, giving him this great platform. And Stone said it on my show that Joe had lobbied to be the vice president. And when he realized that he wasn't getting the nod to become vice president, that's when he came so, virulently against Trump. And it makes sense because, like you said, he betrayed you guys. He probably wanted to get something out of Trump. He didn't get it, so now he betrayed him. Now he wants to be a hater. He's like Scaramucci.
I think absolutely. I mean, Scaramucci at least was a little more predictable because he was a financial bungler for Obama back in 2008 and had no track record or history of being conservative or even Republican in his political orientation. So his conversion, in my view, was always suspect. When you see these individuals who haven't invested much in, as far as time goes, in their record of affiliation with our positions and our ideology, I think the credibility is not always there. And then you can't be subsequently shocked when they kind of turn around and for self-interest reverse their positions. And that, unfortunately, has been the case with Scarborough, is the case with Scaramucci, and the list goes on. Furthermore, I think there's a lot of individuals who knew Trump on a personal level, kind of like a friendship level from New York City and from Palm Beach. And it was kind of like, what do you mean that guy became president? I think there's some envy in these individuals. And of course, this president, despite being relatable on a personal level, is an immensely strong, assertive, and accomplished individual. I mean, an icon, as even those on the left acknowledged before.
No doubt about it. All right, we're gonna have to leave it there, Mike. Thank you. He's here for us every Friday, and one of the best guys we have. Thank you so much, always, for your time and all your help with the show, Mike. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, have a good weekend.
We're taking a quick break. I'm having another White Claw. You stay right there. We're gonna crack up with Barry Goldsmith right after this.